Welcome to this historic review of Cheshire's taverns, inns, restaurants, picnic groves, and snack bars. I originally gave this talk several years ago at Basswater Grill, but it was not recorded. So I'm re-recording it today in May of 2022 using Zoom. Okay, so this is the location of where we're going to talk about the inns and taverns. Basically, two sections of Cheshire. The right-hand section is the original location, Stafford Hill, where some of the oldest places were, and then down in the village, where another group of taverns and inns were located. And Medad King Tavern was in that village area, built in 1768. Actually, at the time, that was part of Lanesborough. Here's a more modern picture of the building. It was Martin's Farm at the time. Notice the barn at the left. And this location is just about where the Dollar General is on Route 8 north of the village of Cheshire. The barn was burned down by some juveniles in 1966. Another old tavern in the village area, Moses Walcott's Tavern, built in 1795. Cheshire was incorporated in 1793. So now we're in the town of Cheshire. This is by the red light on Route 8 at the corner of Church Street and Route 8. The section of the building on the right was a store run by Moses' wife, Freelove Walcott. The building was bought in 1866 by Felix Petterclerc. He had come to town as a young man and became manager of the sand pit company and bought this house, remodeled it into his private home. He kept the original structure pretty much, but changed the roof to a mansard roof and certainly changed the look of the windows. But notice there's still that section on the right that used to be the store. At this point in time, it was now the Beechwood House, a bed and breakfast. And then later it became a nursing home. Now it's in pretty rough shape. Probably going to be torn down in a near future. This aerial view of that building with the circular drive in the back, I wanted to point out to you the road that leads from the barn by the circle down to the lower left of this photograph. That was a road that people used, a shortcut road from Lanesborough Road over to this tavern. And when Petterclerc bought the building and changed it into his private home, he tried to close that road, but he lost with a ruling by the Supreme Court in Berkshire County that it was a public way and he couldn't close it. There's a picture of the road and still visible in the woods back behind the house. And this is what the building looks like today. Again, pretty rough shape, uninhabited, ready to be raised. Okay, just up the street, Hall's Tavern, built in 1804, right across from our Baptist church. Calvin Hall built it. His wife and their daughter Laura lived there. And these three paintings were done by an itinerant painter back in 1810. At one point, the building was owned and turned into the tea room known as the Cheshire Cat. And it had guest rooms on the second floor run by Mrs. Anna Bennett. Also on the second floor was the meeting hall for the Masons. And here's some emblems found after the wallpaper was removed. Cheshire had the first Masons Lodge west of Worcester. When Calvin Hall was about completing this house and tavern, he placed a tall signpost in front to the annoyance of Moses Walcott, keeping the tavern down under the hill. So Moses went at once and replaced with his own pole 50 feet high. And the reason he did that is the stagecoaches came down to Route 8, very close to where the funeral parlor is now, and they would come to Hall's Tavern first without seeing Walcott's just down over the hill. Some other early taverns: Daniel Chapman's on Bloody Brook, up on Windsor Road, now a private home. David Smith's Halfway House on Fales Road, built in 1805, a stop for the stagecoaches. And Colonel Job Stafford had a tavern up on Stafford Hill. August 12, 1777, the Silver Grays met in Stafford's Tavern to declare opposition to the cruel and oppressive power of Britain. And Colonel Stafford led a group of the Silver Grays up to Bennington to fight in the Battle of Bennington. Also on Stafford Hill in the southern section, Remington Tavern. That part of Cheshire at the time was known as New Province Hill. Okay, back down in the village, very close to Walcott's, was Captain Daniel Brown's. This is a private home by Captain Daniel Brown, built in 1797, but it was later turned into a hotel and tavern, the Hoosick Valley Hotel. And then later it became known as the Cheshire Inn. And later still, the Country Squire. And finally, after many years as the Country Squire, it became the Tiffany Greens. And downstairs was the bar. The building was raised in 2013. This is across the street from the present fire station, and now it's just an empty lot with a sign, "Welcome to Cheshire." By the way, Cheshire voted in 1837 that no person to sell spirituous liquors except tavern keepers, and tavern keepers to sell only to travelers, not to the inhabitants of the town of Cheshire. So we were a little ahead of the country in terms of banning the sale of liquor. In 1858, I found this newspaper article. Some of the temperance citizens of Cheshire, fearing that the actions of the town in relation to enforcing the liquor law at an annual meeting might be informal, called a special meeting on the same subject, and again almost unanimously voted to instruct the selectmen to enforce the liquor law. So I guess being a tavern owner was a tough job back then. Okay, let's look at some restaurants in Cheshire. Again, here's the location of the ones we're going to talk about. Pretty much all along Route 8, with one exception, and that would be over on Wells Road, close to 116. First one we'll talk about is the Camel Restaurant, 324 North Street, now a private home at that location. In 1930, this advertisement: The Camel was born last July 4th with a constantly increasing growth. Dine and dance at the Camel Restaurant, Cheshire, Massachusetts. Another ad. This is a matchbook cover. I have been at the Camel Restaurant. Have you? Halfway between Pittsfield and North Adams. And this in the 1936 Springfield Republican, talking about two bowling teams that were sponsored by the Camel Restaurant. Some of the names here mentioned are pretty famous people in town. Everett Lamb, longtime fire chief and owner of Lamb's Garage. Louis Parachi, Robert Johnson, Leo Willett, and John Dogan. Arthur LeBleu is the manager of the Camel Restaurant. Other members are Art Salvi, Bruce Wood, John Bassey, and Ernest Bilal. This also in the news about the Camel Restaurant. 25 Adams women employed by the Berkshire Fine Spinning Association enjoyed a sleigh ride to the Camel Restaurant. (1938), the Camel Restaurant is just one of the few left that weathered the big storm called the Depression and still survived. Its 6 years record speaks for itself. Well, not long after that, this is a chance for a live wire to make some money. Has done a good business in 1 year of $10,000. Good piece of land for parking, liquor license possible, will sell for half its real value. This was an ad later in 1938 for the sale of the Camel Restaurant. And then in 1939, it burned down. Property of Harry Chaput on North Street burned. If you want to read some of that article, you can pause the video at this point. (1944) ad for chickens. And notice at the bottom, it says the former Camel Restaurant site. Okay. Further up on Route 8 on the left, Pine Brook Club. A popular place for picnics and family outings. They had a swimming hole there where the brook was dammed. A lot of people in Cheshire learned to swim in that cold, cold water. Here's an ad in the upper right for a clam bake at the Pine Brook Club. Stephen Bednar's manager, advertising that they have a television. And then it burned in 1961. It had been opened in 1956. Pretty much across the street from where Bushika's sand and gravel business was located on Route 8. Okay, a building known as the Cheshire Wash Tub then became Donabella Pizza, then became Cobble View Pizza, and finally the Gathering. And now it's an electrical shop, no longer an eatery. Here's what it looked like when it was the Wash Tub, next to our fire station. More modern picture when it was the Gathering. All right, another restaurant and bar just down the street from the Gathering. I wonder if you can guess where it was, what it was. Turns out it was known as Cy LeBeau's. This is a modern picture of the inside, and notice the ceiling has not changed. You can still see the exposed beamwork. And next to each booth was a call button for the waitress. There's a close-up of that button, still visible today. The building housed a motorcycle shop known as KTM. Picture on the top as Size Liquor Store, and the house, which is no longer there. All right, another restaurant very close to that location across the street, right where the boat launch area is for the Cheshire Reservoir. The Blue Saucer. It also burned down. And Swiss Tax Bar and Lounge up on Windsor Road. Built in 1933, very popular in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. A polka band was there on the weekends. John and Florence Swistak. Some posters from inside advertising the various bands. And this place, so what it looks like today, it was also a restaurant. It was known as the Fireside. Popular in Cheshire. It had been expanded when this photograph was taken. Some photographs from inside where wedding receptions and various anniversaries were held. And then again, on Route 8, the Chicken Stop. Started by Joe LePage. Then in 1963, bought by Harvey Daniels. And then in 1971, purchased by the Gaylords. They named it the Country Charm Restaurant. Kept the rooster there from the Chicken Stop days. There's a menu. Prices were a little bit different back then. The chicken still lives. It's actually chained and next to a barn in the northern part of Cheshire. Not going anywhere. All right, let's look at some picnic grounds. This is the location of them. Talk about these. First of all, this one. I wonder if you recognize the entrance to it. Follow this dirt road into the woods. And you'll come across this beautiful open area with a pond known as Reynolds Grove or Reynolds Picnic Area. The site of many fishing derbies. And even a wedding. Here's another picnic grove with a nice pond. Any guesses as to where this is? Novak's Grove. Off of Notch Road. Now a private area. And another one, Mallorca picnic grounds, run by the Polish Church from Adams. This is up on the eastern part of Cheshire. Sand Mill Road. I couldn't think of the name of the road. Sand Mill Road. It's now a private home, but some of the original buildings are still there. The bridge going over to one of the picnic areas where the pond was on the lower right. Okay, and now the snack bars. We'll start with this one, known as Chiquette's on Route 116, just up from the high school. They had a serving window on the right where you could get ice cream and other snacks. There was no inside eating. Horns Beach Pavilion, very popular swimming area and picnic area. On Cheshire Reservoir. Opening Sunday, Horns Beach. Brand new recreation area, the largest privately owned beach on Hoosick Lake. Well, it's been called a lot of things, but technically it's Cheshire Reservoir. An entirely new beach, safe for the entire family. No charge on opening day. Another advertisement for Horns Beach in 1959. Cheshire Horns Beach on Hoosick Lake off route should be Route 8 on Farnham's Road, open daily from noon to 8. And on East View Drive, there was a snack bar. It was known as Frenchie's Grove. You got in line, and when you got up to the window, you ordered your hamburger or your hot dog, and Frenchie put them on the grill. Frenchie's Grove, run by Alfred McNaught. Reopening for the season, May 1st, featuring our delicious toasted hot dogs and hamburgers. Another article on the right about John Leroy of Church Street has opened the stand at Frenchie's Grove, run by the late Alfred McNaught. No longer there. So here's a very old picture from the 1920s or 30s, probably 1910 to 1930, somewhere in that frame, of Church Street with the trolley car in front of the town hall. And a little unknown snack bar was inside the town hall annex, which is that building on the right. It was the ticket office for the trolleys. And George Heisler ran a snack bar inside where you could get sandwiches and drinks while you waited for the trolley. It's known as Heisler's Waiting Station. Okay, Joni's, very popular. Joni had the ice cream shop here on Route 8 next to their home. They also had trucks that they would bring to various events around the county. It's from 1965. The Cummington Fair in 1992. And then this car wash, which was just south of Joni's, where Basswater Grill, the Lakeside Car Wash. And it gradually got transformed in 1976 into a restaurant, becoming the Lakeview Restaurant. Here's what it looked like inside. Joni and Chuck St. John ran it for many years. And then it became the Basswater Grill. Closed in 2022, just a few months ago. Now, a couple of restaurants that aren't technically in Cheshire, but close to the borderline. This one is just north of Cheshire. And I'm including it because so many people have fond memories about this place. It was known as Evelyn's, technically in the Cheshire Harbor section, or just by Maple Grove and Adams. And the building was actually moved from the Sand Springs area in Williamstown. There's a picture of it being hauled down into Maple Grove and Cheshire Harbor area. It was run by Evelyn. There was a train that ran around the building that you could get a ride on. And the last one is Red's Dairy Bar. This one's not in Cheshire either, but it's just on the other side of Lanesboro and north of Pittsfield. Red's Dairy Bar. Very popular spot with monkeys, and that you could watch while you were having your ice cream or snack. My last picture is of an unknown place. I don't know where this is, but it was shown in the 150th anniversary of Cheshire in a slideshow. So I'm assuming it was someplace in town. I think the window has a sign that says ice cream, 60 cents, but I don't know where it was. If you do, please get in touch with me and let me know. Or if you have any other photographs of it, I'd love to add them to the archive of Cheshire's history. So thank you. I hope you enjoyed looking at all these places. None of them exist today as businesses. The buildings are either gone or the businesses have closed. If you have any questions or wish to order any of my history books, you can reach me at this email address. Thank you again.